Welcome again to the George Groves Boxing Club podcast. I'm George Groves, the former WBA super middleweight champion of the world, and I am joined as ever with Ring Magazine #1 head honcho Declan Taylor. Declan, how you doing, mate? You okay?
I'm not too bad, mate. It's been a good weekend. It's been full of boxing. It's been full of Swindon victories. It's been full of sunshine in London, George.
What's the sunshine? I'll tell you what is sunshining. Is our sponsorship from Coin Poker, which I'd like to get in right
still
now.
Shining.
Still shining. Yes, we thank you, Coin Poker. Swindon won, yeah?
Yeah, one away at top of the league, Walsall. Absolutely on the march, mate. I'm telling you. Playoffs.
That sounds riveting. But this is a boxing pod deck, so we're going to keep it PG King. So we got boxing from the weekend over in Ireland to get through. We got boxing stateside. Lots
boxing
to talk about. There was boxing in Bournemouth.
Yeah. What a weekend. Yeah, there was.
There's a big show in Bournemouth. I can't wait to hear about that, Dick. We're going to look ahead to the boxing this weekend, which of course is Royal Albert Hall, female only card, exclusive on the Sky Bill. And then Channel 5 are having a little run out as well. Wasserman Boxing down in sunny Brighton, where yours truly is there. But before we get into that...
It's crawling with ECMs in Brighton next
year. Do you think,
yeah? Absolutely crawling with them. Yeah, it is. Harlem Eubank top of the bill. Mick Conlon on the bill. You and Lucas Roerig featured. It is like the ECM loving. It's like the live show all over again. Apart from I'm not there.
Well, you will be there. You will not miss. But Dec, I have Ben Shalom. He's desperate to come on. Ben, I've got him. I've literally got him on hold. So let's just. Is it after
you got Eddie? He was like, I need to come on and have my say. So you got Eddie Hearn, obviously at the press conference, and Eddie had a star turn. The views going through the roof on the YouTube, and the other promoter involved in this card, he needs to have his say.
Well, that's what I thought, Dec. I really wanted to hear Ben Shalom.
The genius.
There's a few things that we need to get into, Ben. So without further ado, let's
get him on.
Ben.
Right, go on, George.
Yeah, so it's just how about that? We're reviewing the weekend, but I want to review the week, mate. And you are an integral part of this huge week of boxing announcements, which was, of course, Chris Eubank Jr. Takes on Conor Benn, Tottenham Stadium. You're in Eubank's corner, and we've seen two. Well, they haven't time to come together, Dec. Is it two? They did the public sort of presser face-off, and then a press sort of media.
Manchester one, London one, and at the London one, there was on the pitch as well. So they've come together like, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 times now, face to face, two or three times. First one was Eggate.
Yeah, what have you made of the week, Ben?
You know what? It's been it's been mad. It's been like a whirlwind, to be honest. I knew about this date for a long time, and I'd sort of been dreading it because, one, the history between them, but obviously Chris knows how to perform at a press conference. And obviously the last press conference I've been with him in the UK was the famous scumbag press conference. And that, as a promoter, that wasn't ideal. And so I was thinking, shit, this is coming, and I just knew that it was going to be it was going to grab headlines. You're sort of excited at the same time, but yeah, with Chris, it's always a madness and it's always crazy. But I thought he did unbelievably well. I thought he's just an unbelievable orator in terms of how he conducts himself on a press conference. I mean, George, you'll remember, but I think since his dad's not been around, I think he's just come into his own more and just is able to express himself in the way he wants to, and he's unbelievable, to be honest. And it was a great week, and the show is the way it's been received was just phenomenal. I got the taxi down from Manchester to London, or the car down, and I stopped at the service station and I went in and I was looking at the papers, every paper. I'd never had that. Even with Amir and Kel and big shows like Taylor Cattrall and other big shows we've done with Eubank or Shields, just never that scale. That was ridiculous. And so it was pretty special, to be honest. And the way it sold has been crazy.
I wondered that, George. I had a question for you there. He wasn't always like this, was he, Chris Eubank Jr.? Like, I remember in his pressers, he was often like very stoic and very cold, and like would talk about being a gladiator and that sort of stuff. He's totally changed now. He wasn't like that with you, was he, George? Your presser, you were the sort of cleverer one, and he was just a bit more. Him and his dad. Well, his dad was there at that time, but he was just a bit more cool and calm and quiet.
Well, you couldn't see as much of him when his dad was around because his dad,
True,
steals limelight. He can't help it. It's just who he is. So he wouldn't necessarily need to compete with his dad. He'd stand back and let his dad take over. But I thought he was very, like, especially the second one, very well methodical, spoke well, knew exactly what was going to be asked, articulated every answer correctly. And then the bits that came his way that I'm sure he anticipated was going to be Ben saying, "Where's your team? Like, where's your dad, but where's your team?" And obviously talking about, I think it's Addy actually, who presents, says, "Do you think it was a nice thing to do about smacking someone with an egg?" And he says, "Well, it's compared to what I've been through, it's not so bad." And he doesn't really respond to the team situation, I don't think, because he doesn't really need to, because I think he wants to show Ben that I'm strong enough on my own. And I just want to ask you, Ben, like, are you aware of what Chris Eubank's going to say before he says it? Do you have are you involved in any sort of pre-discussion before you sit on that top stage?
No, genuinely. Look, it's in the past, I've had press conferences with different fighters, maybe more inexperienced fighters, or fighters that aren't Chris, and things are discussed and how they're going to respond in certain situations, particularly if it's a new environment or if it's a big pay-per-view show. But on this one, because of what happened last time, I was on him, and I was saying to him, "Chris, right now we've just done a big deal with the ring and Saudi, and it's probably not the right time for me to be going to war with these other promoters. We've been at war for 3 years. Let's just calm it down." And so I was on him, and I was trying to get out of him what he was going to say, and because he wouldn't tell me anything, I knew there was something coming. I didn't expect it, and when we got to the end of the press conference, I was thinking, this was unbelievable. We've got through. He performed really well. Thought he made his points well, and then obviously what happened. But I think at the time I was shocked because I didn't really know what it was. But then once I'd slept on it, once I'd sort of seen it back, I think a lot more was made of it in that moment, in that half an hour sort of melee where everyone's like running around like crazy, and you didn't even see half of it. I mean, behind the stage, there's like this corridor where you had teams running up and down, and it was just madness. But I think in the end, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And no, Chris kept it to himself. And I think the reason why Chris and I get on is he never wanted a promoter that was going to tell him what to do. He likes the fact that he feels like a business partner, and he is in control, and he makes decisions for himself. And at the end of the day, he's 35 years old. He's not 25 anymore, and he's been around the block.
Do you think Eddie Hearn tells Ben what to do and say?
I think he'll definitely hope to guide him. I think that his dad or Tony, or I'm sure, will guide him. But in a similar way, I look back on last week, and I said a lot to Conor, and I respect him a lot as well, because look, he's younger than Chris, 28 years old, coming in, he had taken a lot of shit, and he's put people through a lot of shit as well, and so I can't really forgive him for that. But at the end of the day, he is an exciting fighter. He is a good fighter. He's a fighter that's improving, and part of the pantomime is his character as well. As much as Chris is extremely eloquent, very intelligent, can control a press conference, can make everyone look stupid, the fact that Conor is so game and so up for it that's what causes fireworks. So it does take the two of them.
Do you think Eddie Hearn? Sorry, Dec. Do you think Eddie Hearn, who is very experienced with press and press conferences, is a little out of his depth at this in this instance? Because like I think when he pushes you at Eggate, he needs some sort of release, and he's decided you're the guy who's going to get it. Why did he pick on you there and then? Why did you get the push? Did you know what was going on at the time?
I had no idea. You can see me almost spinning around, not knowing what's going on. I don't think I knew who pushed me until like after. Why? Look, I've said before, I think Eddie is over the top at times. I've said I do actually find him funny, and I do get on with him, but he lost his head. He's not going to push a fighter. He just probably thought it was worse than it was, like a lot of us did at the time. But I'd never push a promoter. I mean, I've been pushed by both of them now. It's amusing. I couldn't push Frank back because I think his age, I'd just get crucified. I think, to be honest, people say to me, "Why aren't you pushing them back? Why aren't you?" I think that's what they want. I think they want a fight. I think they want, whether physically or literally. I think for us, we've got a goal. We've got a target. We're going to get the business. It's like going through the jungle. You're going to have snakes and apes and lions and whatever. If you start trying to fight with everyone on the way, you're gonna get stuck in what you're doing. And I think that's part of it at times. And yeah, I think I've spoke to Eddie since. I think he's a little bit embarrassed by it. I do.
Yeah, why? What did he say that made you think he was embarrassed?
I think he keeps trying to make justifications, like I was in the wrong place, and he's trying to get to where he.
Has he apologised then? Yeah.
Maybe he shouldn't have done it. I don't think he's man enough to apologise.
Do you not know?
I don't think he'll do it. No. But
did you give him that look? Do you know, like when Conor Ben sort of said, "Don't talk about my dad." Do you know what I mean? Like you overstepped the mark. What would you say to Eddie Hearn to let him know that he can't overstep the mark?
To be honest, if anything, it's a win for us. Like if he's going to push me, if he's actually got to that level of rattledness or whatever, then I think we've won. As I say, I've had it with Frank before. I said before, I think Eddie's less vicious than Frank. I think Frank would do some terrible things if he could. No, I'm only messing. But I think Eddie is just emotional. He's on it. He's up and down. But I don't think it's too. I mean, this is how I read it. I don't think it's too personal with him. And to be honest, we do have a laugh. I was messaging him on Saturday.
What about
during his show?
Was you messaging about the bet that Chizora's sort of thrown the gauntlet out? Because I heard that Eddie wants to put down £1 million.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about that bet. First of all, I took the 100 grand, and then he said, "Oh no, it's for charity," or this and that. Then the £1 million came, and I was thinking, at the end of the day, I was thinking, since probably a good bet for me that. And so I would take, if it came down to it, and I'm putting this out there, and I don't think we're allowed to bet on fights anyway, but I would take it. But I just don't know whether he would stand on it. Obviously, £1 million to me is a lot more than to him, but I think I would. I think I'd take a bet. I just don't. I think he does it. I think he's doing it for the cameras, to be honest.
Yeah, because you're getting evens there. And
exactly.
you couldn't get evens with a bookmaker. Your man's 8 to 11 with most of them, and Conor Benn's sort of 7 to 5ish. So you get him evens on £1 million bet, mate. I'm going to get that in writing.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I did some sums just like you did, and I was like, "Hang on, I can win both ways."
Do you want? You're trying to get in on it, Dec. You want to create a consortium? We'll raise the funds. Yeah, we'll raise the funds.
We'll raise the funds. I was going to speak to Betfair and take the bet.
Yeah, do it. Just pulling on something George said there, was Conor's kind of one of his main, and he didn't have many goes at Chris or many sort of lines in that second one, but he was, "Where's your dad? Your dad doesn't like you." That sort of thing, which I found that kind of hard to hear, and it must be a stinger for Chris as much as he's as stoic as he is. I just wondered, from your point of view as his promoter, Has there been any thoughts about bringing Senior back in? Where does that lie, and what is that going to happen, or is he just not part of this fight?
Look, it's a personal situation, so I don't want to talk too much. I'd say there's a lot people don't know. Chris wants a relationship with his dad. It's not what people think. It's just sometimes there's a differentiation between someone's career. I mean, Chris's junior's career was dominated so much by Senior for almost 80% of it. I think it's just got to the point where he wants to make his own mistakes. He wants to have his own career. He wants to be able to say what he thinks. He wants to be able to choose the fights that he wants. He wants to be able to choose the trainers that he wants. And every fighter deserves that. And I think it's just trying to get the balance right between having his dad in his corner and having someone running his career. I do expect him to appear at some point. I do. And I know he wants to, I believe. But I just think going into the personal stuff, for me, at the end of the day, that's still someone's dad. And I just don't think we've tried our best not to go there with anything. Chris might say he is shocking, he is outrageous, he does bring out the ice, but he's very careful not to bring anyone's personal things into it and relationships into it. And I think it should stay that way, of course, for the fans to see Senior and Nigel as part of the promotional week will be amazing. I think Chris just wants to be able to speak for himself, so it's just about getting that balance right.
They're not actually physically part of the promotion. They weren't part of the deal that we'd have to see the two dads together or part of the build-up and like that. No.
And just on the tickets. Now, obviously, we heard there was that number sort of. Everyone was saying it, the 130,000 in the waiting room for pre-sale, etc., etc. And then since the tickets have gone on sale, I'm sure you've seen all over social media, it's like, oh look, there's shitloads of tickets left. What's the truth here? How have the tickets gone? What's the real story here? How have they gone? What are we expecting? Do we think it's an absolute monster like those early numbers were suggesting?
No, it 100% is. I think, first of all, there's different pricing and there's different tickets. I think from what I see out of the whole stadium, there's around 10,000 left maximum in the entire stadium.
That's pretty good for the first few days.
For the first few days, but it would have sold out. I think what happened was when Eddie's saying there's 130,000 people in the waiting room, which there is, people then are actually not put off, but just don't want to spend 3 hours, 4 hours in a queue and then not get a ticket and this and that. I genuinely think it's one of them, and you'll see them go. Like the demand, we could, and I promise you, we could sell it 3 or 4 times over. The demand is there. It's just a different pricing of tickets, and I think the waiting rooms and things like that. You're going to see about 10,000 still on sale, which is good, and we do want those that want tickets to be able to come to the show. But the scale of it is crazy. To sell around 62,000 in a 24-hour period is a logistical nightmare for the club, for all the hospitality, the pitches. Everyone's just getting their ducks in order, repricing little things. We're trying to bring in new areas. We're trying to bring in different sections. The stuff that is at Turkey's got planned is just off the wall in terms of entertainment. And so, it's definite sellout.
Because I'd imagine the Ring Magazine, Riyadh season, do they own the show and then they own the tickets, and then do they set the ticket prices? Do they? Do they control everything? If they said, actually, we only want to sell 20,000 tickets and everyone's going to be in a cabana rather than normal seating. Essentially, that's what they could do. It's their show, yeah.
They can do that. Ourselves, Matchroom, are running the show, and so operationally we'll do everything. And that's the thing. It's not always in this event. It's not just going to be how do we maximise the revenue as much as possible. Otherwise, you won't see the promotion coming in for the next few weeks. It just doesn't make sense in any normal promotion. It's going to be how do we create a historic experience, and it is going to be out of this world. The things that are being planned, the sacrifices that are being made, certain areas, certain things around the pay-per-view. This isn't just to try and drive as much revenue as possible. This is going to be an event, I think, the biggest of the year, but also the most ridiculous event of the year, with loads of things to be announced.
Very nice. One last one before we move on to this weekend. What do we reckon the score is? So we had Eggate, we had the presser, the second presser. We thinking Chris Eubank's 2-up? Is he 2-0 up going into the actual fight?
He 100% is, but it's impossible. Like, I'm almost sat there thinking, if I was up against Chris Eubank Jr.,
yeah, it's a nightmare.
It had to be, he's better than anyone. And fair play, it was almost Eddie and Conor. Eddie almost doing a lot for Conor. But you're not going to win that battle. And Chris has got too much ammunition. And what's happened to Chris over the past 2 years, people that talked about the egg thing, I don't think enough was made about what the damage that had to Chris's career, genuinely. He turned down other fights to fight Conor Ben in that first one. He went down to a ridiculously unnatural weight that had its toll on his body at 33 years of age. He then had to go into another camp, didn't it? It was bad for him. Like, it was bad. And it was at a time in his life where a lot was going on as well. And I think there's a lot of, when someone cheats or he feels like they cheated, that's going to weigh heavy on him. And so in his mind, what he did this week was a minor in comparison to what happened to him that week. I would definitely say he's up, but ultimately it's about what happens on the night. Conor is a good fighter, is a lot younger than him, will feel that he's going to be more comfortable at the weight, but that's what makes for such a massive fight. And believe me, this means, I saw Eddie talking about how much this means to Chris. This is everything for Chris. And hopefully he can perform on April 26th.
I think it'd be a great fight, Ben. Really good fight. And talking of good fights, we got a great show, boxer card coming up this weekend. It's all females. We've at the Royal Albert Hall. Correct. How long have you had that date for the Royal Albert Hall? You had it for about 2.5 years, I bet, waiting to put on the show.
We've been trying for 2.5 years. I think boxing, unfortunately, just has this tag. And so the guys in the office, we've been trying for the Royal Albert Hall since we started, I think. They wouldn't let us in. They wouldn't let boxing in. Don't know what's happened in the past, but obviously it's a very prestigious venue. And the first women's night for us was a massive success. So we used that. And this was the first available date we've been able to get since then. So it's going to be special. It's an unbelievable main event between two fighters that we've worked with for a long time. A real 50-50 fight. Caroline Dubois in a great fight as well. Cindy Ngamba makes her debut in a great fight against Kirsty Babington. Carrie Sartingstall against Raymond Chapman, which could be fight of the night. There's a lot of fights on there, but Royal Albert Hall is going to be particularly special. Again, another sellout. Hopefully a big spectacle for boxing, because for me, women's boxing hasn't been as successful the past 12, 18 months as it had been the prior year. And I think that's really important. Like, everything happened with Riyadh and then all the big fights, that women's boxing for boxing is helps us get the broadcasters, helps us get the sponsors, helps us get rid of that tag. I couldn't get men's boxing into Royal Albert Hall, but I can get women's boxing, and it sometimes gets you into places that men's boxing can't, and people don't realise that, and we see it because I think boxing still has.
Why is that?
Sometimes that murky tag, that masculinity, like intimidating. It's not the same sport as it was in the 70s and 80s, but this is a mainstream sport now that has a really successful women's division, and that helps with everything. And luckily, the numbers of women's boxing can compete with men's boxing. I've seen that now for the past 2.5 years, and there's not many sports that can do that.
Did you see that clip with Natasha thinking that she'd boxed Lauren Price before? That was absolutely gold. Yeah.
It was gold. It was so funny. And Lauren's just there.
Part of me wondered whether Tasha had done it on purpose, to be like, I boxed so many people like you that I can't even remember you.
And I think she just said, what did she say when she realised that she'd made him? I think she just went sound.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
It was funny.
But it's a good one, isn't it? It's a good little sort of. It's not quite boiling over, but they don't like each other.
No, I think one thing I've noticed in women's boxing, and obviously I think you've got to be careful what I say here, but there's the competitiveness or sometimes jealousy between the fighters as to who's number one, even across divisions, is crazy. It's almost harder than the men's sport to sort of manage the egos and the personalities. It's great, but it's like, wow. And I think for Natasha, she does feel slighted that she's fighting, in her eyes, a fighter that doesn't deserve to fight, that hasn't done what she's done in the professional game, and who hasn't achieved what she's achieved, yet they're headlining the women's night. And then with Lauren, she doesn't see the big deal in Natasha Jonas. She's a gold medal. She's MBE. She's achieved absolutely everything. She's become a world champion. She's still not lost a round in the professional ranks. And so there is that cattiness and that needle between the two of them. But I see it across women's boxing. It's mental. It really is, and it's going to be an unbelievable fight between two fighters that are desperate not to lose.
Who's got the biggest ego out of them two?
Yeah.
Is it? Do either of them got a bigger ego than Eddie?
Listen, that's impossible. But I think, look, I'm not going to comment. I can't comment. But it is.
Get yourself banging trouble on fight week.
You'll get egged.
I hate promoting fights. I used to think it was a nice way of doing things, but I hate promoting fights where we have both sides. I had it with Dan Aziz Bouatsi. I've had it with I'm trying to think the bigger ones. I've had it quite a few times. Riyad Paul Billam Smith. I don't like it because you can't win. But in this one particularly, I found it very difficult. Like this one's, I think I've fallen. It's, you almost end up falling out with both because they both think you're on the other side.
And is the target here? Obviously, this is a unification at welterweight, 3 of the belts on the line. Is the target the winner of Maya Ryan, and so we can get an undisputed one at welterweight?
Definitely. This division's the best one in women's boxing, just because the super lightweights can make it and the super welterweights can make it, and it's just that catch weight for sort of all the best fighters. And so I expect this division to be the one that dominates over the next 2 or 3 years. There's so many big fights, but ideally we want the winner of Jonas Price to go and unify, collect the belts, and then make some massive fights. And hopefully kickstarts women's boxing this year, because I want to see it back where it was a couple of years ago.
I agree, Ben. Yeah, it's sort of this is a big show, and it was a
special one. And
this year, and obviously Jonas was a bit upset. She hadn't boxed much, but she's had out this year. She's got a big fight now. It's a huge fight. It's probably the best fight that I think can be made right now, women's boxing, and Royal Albert Hall. Oh, well, it's a dream to have. I'd love to have boxed there, but it's just doesn't happen. So congratulations, mate, getting it done, getting down there.
But George is not actually going to be there that night because he's obviously busy in Brighton with Lucas Rohrig, who
you're joking.
Who you had on.
Actually, I shouldn't be allowing that. I'm pretty sure I can stop that happening.
But you had him on the last one.
I like him.
You were very excited. You even spoke about him in the press conference after. Yeah, what were your initial thoughts on Lucas Rohrig?
Yeah, I like him. I think he's the one to watch. Hopefully, he'll be making his return to us after Friday. But I think he's the one to watch in that division. I've realised since I started, and I'm glad we're talking about this, that when we started, I was after the Olympians. You're after those big names. You're after the fighters that give you credibility, obviously, as a promoter, I think, at the time, and the broadcasters, that's what they're interested in. But the biggest success stories now that I'm seeing coming through, and the ones where we've had the most success with the Adam Azims and Callum Simpsons and things like that, is the fighters, is the diamonds in the rough. And that's where I see Lucas in. he's going to have to learn on the job, but that's part of the fun, and people can follow his journey. And he's got time on his side. He looks the part, and it's a great division that we know very well. So, yeah, I think for us going forward, those are the types of fighters that we want to be looking at, and who deserve the opportunity, because they're desperate for it as well. Sometimes you sign these Olympians, and listen, we've had great success with the Olympians we've signed. So, but a lot of fighters coming out of that, maybe they've had massive signing on bonuses, and they've earned a lot of money, and they've got the sponsors, and they've got that notes, and they just don't want it in the same way. And there's fighters that are desperate to make it and make a living and get somewhere, and starting from scratch. They're usually the ones that go the furthest. They're the ones that want to fight every week. They're the ones that want to get to the top. And yeah, it's I can see that in Lucas.
If you were a 21-year-old Brit as well, turning over, you'd want to be a cruiserweight right now, wouldn't you? That division, even just with you and Boxer Ben, but across the UK, that is a ridiculous division.
Yeah, it is. In the UK, it is. There's so many good fights. Obviously, even on the Eubank-Benn card, Chris Smith returning, Vidal Riley in a great fight against Chev Clark, which I'm hoping he announces himself. But there's so many big British fights, and hopefully Lucas can get in the mix earlier rather than later. I mean, I don't know what George is planning with him, but there's Pat Brown as well turning over at a similar time. And Scott Forrest had an unlucky. Well, he lost recently. Isaac Chamberlain still to come back in the mix. It's a great division.
Yeah, no, great division. Lots of good fighters across sort of every part of a career. Guys who are just starting out 1-0, 2-0, making their debuts right the way up to the champions like Chris Smith. So yeah, I say it's a great division to be in, and the fights are getting made. And so,
who's he fighting on Friday?
I don't know.
Southpaw guy.
Yeah, what's his name, Dec? Castillo.
Yeah, Castano. I think he's Argentinian.
Argentinian, half and half record.
Been over here before, I'm pretty
sure. He boxed Dubry, and so don't worry, we won't clash with your broadcasting. But
yeah, Camilo Castano, 4-9, Argentinian southpaw. So get the southpaw out of the way early doors.
Yeah, and the other Eubanks on that night. You know, the cousin. So, yeah, they're up against it. These shows, I don't know whose fault it is, their fault or your fault. You put them on the same night, mate. You can't do it. It's ruining it for us boxing fans. Can't watch them all, not live at least.
He's been waiting 2.5 years to get the Albert.
Yeah, that's to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't choose your day at Albert Hall. You get given it. You get given it and you take it, and that's it.
Yeah.
But this Friday for me is one of the best dates in the calendar for us. I think the whole card, top to bottom, that women's night is going to be incredible. I think we start at 7 p.m. Sky Sports main event, Sky Sports Showcase, and yeah, a lot of big stars coming through. Lauren and Caroline in particular.
Cindy and Gamba.
Cindy coming through. She to have a debut against Kirsty Babington. Is big. And she can really bang as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing her. And Caris as well, who's been out for almost a year, had some personal issues, jumping straight into the deep end with Raven Chapman, coming off the back of that Sky Nicholson defeat. So it's another great fight, British title fight. So a lot on offer, and yeah, I'm expecting big numbers.
Awesome, Ben. We thank you for coming on, pal. Wish you all the very best with the show this weekend. I'm sure it'll be a huge success, even though it's up against the top prospects in world boxing. But
is he going to be on TV or not?
Could be,
maybe,
could be. I don't know. Probably not. It's Channel 5, isn't it? They ain't got a lot of time. I think they only have like an hour or so, and they like guys that go the distance. Let's see if Harlem Eubank can blow his guy away. But no, buddy, thanks so much for coming on.
Are you coming?
I'm still waiting instruction from my new employer, Ben. I'll be at one of the two. I think we have some.
I'm quite offended that this even
half an hour
debate.
Hey, listen, I just go where I'm told. You know me. Just go where I'm told. Do the business.
Which one are you going to, Ben? Yeah, here we go. Right, so look forward to you being compromised by having a foot in every corner of that show.
Yeah.
So you just
it's going to be
try and hold good form and don't show favoritisms. Otherwise, then women, they got the biggest egos of all, apparently. So you'll be in for some hot water, brother.
But you'll still leave with the champ no matter what happens.
On deck.
Like Don
this
King.
is the problem. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm accused of.
Yeah.
But listen, it's going to be a great fight. I think Caroline Dubois' fight against Bermie Rishan is going under the radar. She is vicious. She really is. I think outside of Ferreira and Dubois, she's the best in the world. So Carolina as well, another star in the making, possibly the star in the making as well. So yeah, unbelievable show, and Royal Albert Hall should be special.
Nice one, Ben.
Lovely. Cheers, Ben.
Well, that's what Ben had to say, Dec. That was great, wasn't it?
Bloody great. Always great. I mean, we had him on the pod. I still think, for my money, that when we had him on the pod last time, it was one of the best interviews he's done. It was a really good, long, honest one. If you haven't listened to that, go and listen to that. But yeah, lots of nuggets in there.
Right, I'll tell you what I need.
What a mad week for him.
A mad week.
What do you need?
I need a break, Dec. I was trying to do a quick little organic sort of into a break, but I fucked it. So shall I just try it again? Literally not actually try it again. We'll leave it in. But right, Dec, let's have a break there. Get some ads. Have a break. A little bit of money coming. Why not? Right then, Dec. Good to see you again. How are you?
Great.
Brilliant. Let's do this. So right, let's get into the boxing from the weekend. Let's start in Ireland, Belfast, because we had dear old Andy Lee join us this week. Tell us about his week, literally from climbing out of the ropes in Saudi to arriving. We couldn't get him as far as arriving into the ring in Belfast, but near enough, right? And of course, you've got Paddy Donovan headlining this weekend. Matchroom card, DAZN. Good fight on paper before the first bell. Dec, what'd you make of it?
Well, it was controversy both sides of the pond. This one was big. We'll get onto Gervonta Davis next, but this one was it was one of the biggest sort of all Irish fights that I can remember on a platform like this. Not only because it was like the interest in it and the headline occasion and whatnot, but also it was the final eliminator. Final eliminator for the IBF welterweight title. So proper stuff. And Paddy Donovan, through 8 rounds, was, I thought, very, very good. It was like a star-making performance. He's miles ahead on the cards, even though he's had 2 points deducted for headbutts. And then at the end of the 8th round, right as the bell goes, he hits Lewis Crocker. Crocker goes over. He's disqualified by Marcus McDonald for hitting after the bell. So what was looking like a dream night for Paddy Donovan swiftly turned into a nightmare. He is now no longer undefeated. He has a 1 on his record, that one being a DQ defeat. Obviously, everyone's seething. Paddy seething, Andy Lee seething. There's tears in the dressing room after. And it was just, I mean, it's not the sort of way Lewis Crocker wants to win a fight either. Billy Nelson, his trainer's come out since and said, well, we're fighting for the world title next. We won that fight as far as we're concerned. Whether you like it or not, we won the fight. They're going to be pressing ahead for a world title fight next, and Paddy Donovan won't get an immediate rematch, according to Billy Nelson. But we know this is boxing. Who knows what happens? But it was a disappointing end. I mean, disappointing. It's easy for us to say. It's a sickening end for Paddy Donovan and Andy Lee.
Yeah, I mean, that is really sickening. Because was it that bad, Dec?
Mate,
it was
saw
so loud, it felt like, and you're only getting it from, well, I wasn't there, but it was so loud, and in the moment, I mean...
I saw a clip on YouTube, apologies, I can't remember the account, but it was a great little clip whoever put it together, and it was like slow-mo, and so you can hear the bell like, ding, 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 and like the third ding of the bell is almost still happening when Donovan hits him that time, so it's not... Like, the bell ring hasn't even finished. Crocker said he thought the round was over until he put his hands down. It was a free shot. If you look, Lewis Crocker's on the ropes with his hands up. It's not... The exchange is still happening. It's so marginal for me that it can't... It's such a... that makes it an awful way for a fight to finish. We've seen people be hit after the bell before. Charlie Edwards, or hit on the floor. Charlie Edwards and what's his face? Julio Cesar Chavez Martinez. That one, but this one was nowhere near as bad as that. This was marginal. Andy Lee said McDonald got it wrong. He said that he should have been there. He should have been there to jump in, stop boxing at the bell. There was none of that. So if the ref's not saying right, stop boxing, and then asking his fighters to stop boxing, then how can he disqualify someone for punching after the bell if he hasn't been there and done the gesture?
Yeah,
you know?
and it's sort of like, I mean, is it a grey area? Protect yourselves at all times, like.
Got to be that.
And you see sometimes where the bell's gone, someone's literally stopped boxing, dropped their hands, walked to neutral corner, and then got belted, and you're like, well, they weren't expecting that. Yeah,
exactly.
Whereas, Donovan and Crocker are still fighting each other after the bell. It's just that he gets hit, one gets hit and one don't. So, I don't know. I'm not, I'm a stippler for the rules, and then I'm not. But I like to, I don't know, Dec.
The thing is, DQs are really unusual these days for a reason. It's because it's just not a good way to end a fight. I know there's rules for a reason. But a fight of that magnitude, and again, you can't really look at what the scorecards say when you make a decision like that. It's either after the bell or it's not. And if he's after the bell and he stopped the guy, then it has to be a DQ. But for me, it's so close, and you can hear the bells almost still ringing when that last shot goes in. Oh, it's just awful. And the problem is, it's so close. You say grey areas, it's those tiny margins, and some of them are going to be marginal in this sport. And Paddy's just got on the end of that. What I will say, though, is that my old mate Gavin Casey, the prolific Irish journalist, he wrote a tweet earlier, and he said part of it was his profile. Paddy Donovan's profile will rise far more from this controversial ending and the profile from it, and the talking about it and the headlines and the replays and whatnot, than it ever would have done if he just won on points. So even in a defeat on his card, it might just stand him in good stead from a profile perspective, because everyone's talking about it, everyone's seen the fight, everyone's seen the stoppage. Who knows if that's true or not, but I think they can take a lot of positives from the night. It's a real shame about the IBF situation. I don't know. What would you do, George? You've got a few factors here at play. You've got the IBF. You've obviously got Paddy Donovan and Andy Lee, who want to do one thing. You've got Billy Nelson, Lewis Crocker, and you have Eddie Hearn as the promoter. Who do you think is going to win there in this little in that little pot? What's going to come out? What stock are we going to take from it? Do we have an immediate rematch just because that's what is right? Do we say, Paddy Donovan, I'm sorry, mate, you lost. Referee says so. You're going to have to get back in line. Lewis Crocker, you move on. Did the IBF say this was not satisfactory ending to our fight? Do it again. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only experience I've got is
you had that
a similar controversial. Well, not similar, but I had a controversial ending for an IBF title fight. World title fight against Roach, and I went to the IBF and they found in my favour. The Boxing Board of Control didn't. They will always back their referees.
Yeah, they're not going to.
They're not even going to say anything was wrong, or there was a problem. Not officially, anyway. So, and I suppose you can't say Marcus McDonald was in hot water for this. It's just he's had to make a call in the moment, and it's tough. It's a tough old moment. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, if you're Paddy Donovan, the best you can hope for is a rematch, because you're not gonna, even though you technically was gonna win, you'd imagine almost on the verge of winning, ain't gonna be enough to sort of get a world title shot if Lewis Crocker wants one. I suppose his best bet is to go to the IBF and try and get them to, it's not. I don't know. They can't force a rematch, but reorder it. That would be what you can hope for. But in terms of if they did have a rematch, there'd be a lot of more attention on it because of the controversy of the first fight. So that may be good. It's hard. It's hard when you're on the wrong end of the decision and people say, "Look at the good bright side, mate. Don't worry, everyone's talking about it.
Everyone's talking about
yeah,
it.
fucking hell, great.
That's what you got.
Yeah, everyone's talking about it. Yeah, and Froch is still telling people I was seconds away from getting stopped. You know what I mean? Nah, don't like it. So that was that. So that was a shame. I don't know what's next.
But Lewis Crocker. I mean, look at Carl Froch. I know he told us and he says that he knew that he had to do the rematch straight away. But I'm sure he would have gone after that first fight. Got away with one there. That was a hard fight. I don't want to fight him again. I want to fight Chavez or Golovkin or whoever it is in Vegas for a load of money. Lewis Crocker and his team, they will surely look at that performance and go, we were getting well beaten there. Let's move on from that.
Yeah.
Let's not. Why would they want to run back to a Paddy Donovan rematch based on what happened in that fight? Like, move on.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to want to do.
Yeah.
Don't know. Or maybe Lewis Crocker's like, fuck this, I want to beat him because I don't want to win in that fashion.
I mean, a lot of fighters
I'm sure he
feel that
feels
way.
like that.
Yeah, but they might go, nah. They might go, don't need it, mate. You don't need it. You're already there.
Got the W.
You got the W. Exactly. That's enough. Dec, I've got a confession to make. I haven't seen the Gervonta Davis fight yet.
Confession to make. You haven't seen it?
No,
yet?
but
I would go and watch it.
Yeah. Got draw written all over it.
Draw written all over it. It was a good action fight, and Gervonta Davis fights are not always action packed. He's a thrilling fighter, I think, but they're not always action packed. So, but this one was good. And as you said, it was a draw, but this was absolutely oozing with controversy as well, because it was a majority draw on the card. So two of them had it a draw. One of them had Gervonta Davis winning, I think 7-5. The price, it's always one of those, it's a hard one to score because you're always overrating I say you always, but many people will always naturally overrate the work of the underdog in otherwise even rounds. We've seen it before. We've talked about this before. But the fact is, Lamont Roach had done really well and was winning rounds. He thinks he won the fight anyway. But then there was this moment, I don't know if you've seen this moment on social media, in the 7th round, where he catches him. It looks like it's not full blown. It looks, at first I thought he's broke his nose because he's kind of caught something on his face. One of those ones where Davis has not been lights out, but he's like stunned. And then he kind of walks away and kind of turns round. And then a couple of things. Then I think the referee, he says he's got Vaseline in his eye or something. The referee kind of lets him get towelled down. But he doesn't say break or anything like that, or stop boxing. So Lamont Roach, I feel like he missed an opportunity to just, you mentioned earlier about protect yourself at all times. I feel like he missed an opportunity to just jump.
Does his knee not touch down in this instance?
I don't think.
I thought his knee. I thought he takes a knee.
Oh, his knees goes down.
He puts his knee on the floor.
Oh yeah, that's before anything else happens.
He puts his knee down. Then he stands up because he probably thinks, "Oh wait, that's going to score a knockdown," and walks to his corner.
Yes.
And there is that element of like, are you that big now? Are you bigger than the rules? Like, this fight can stop on my terms right now because I've got an itchy eye. It's like
I've got some Vaseline.
Yeah,
in there,
or it was his hair gel, wasn't it? Like he's
Oh, was it?
He's got some nice
something in
bit
his
of oil,
hair,
bit of oil in his hair that's leaked down into his face. And I don't know. I never really wore oil in my hair, Dec, so I can't really give too much. No, now I'll have a bit of something in there. But you want to go for wax? I mean, maybe that's not the look he's going for, but wax is sticky. Don't really drip. Don't really melt. Like it does melt actually, but not to the point.
Maybe
where,
it was a hair. Yeah,
but there was a hair issue. The ointment in the eye.
He had a hairy moment.
But I haven't seen the fight, so I don't know.
But like Roach could have jumped on him. Yeah, if it's a knockdown as well, or if it's an 8 count, he wins the fight on the cards. He like that. If he's got a 10-8 round there, he wins the fight because 2 of them were 114, 114. So anything, I know it's totally hypothetical, therefore, because then obviously the back end of the fight would probably change, and maybe Davis gets the wriggle on and knocks him out. I don't know, but on the basis of those scorecards, if there's a knockdown scored, Lamont Roach causes one of the biggest upsets of the year, of the decade. Like, coming up from super feather or whatever, coming up and trying to fight Gervonta Davis undefeated pound for pounder. I just feel like Davis has got away with one.
Yeah,
majority draw.
The tank.
First time he hasn't won. The tank.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, too much lubricant in the tank that day, and the oil's fucking spilled out, and he's starting to malfunction.
Must be.
Yeah, and Roach, maybe Roach beats Tank. Maybe that's like,
yeah, because a little roach can like climb inside the mainframe of a tank and sort of. It's like Ant-Man who could kill Thanos. Spoiler alert, but that's what happens, isn't it? He turns little and kills Thanos. Anyway, less of the Marvel stuff. But Gervonta Davis now is 30-0 with one draw. He's 30 years old. He's been openly talking about retirement. And I don't know if he feels like he's just someone who just doesn't love it anymore. Like, you know when boxers start talking about retirement. I remember, was it Carl Frampton or... No, was it Warrington? Well, when Frampton was talking about retirement and Warrington got hold of it and was like, if you're thinking about retirement, you might as well retire because you can't be fighting another man who doesn't want to retire when you do. And I don't know whether that was a bit of that on show at the Barclays Centre in Brooklyn. And Lamont Roach, that was his World Cup final.
yeah,
Gervonta Davis, maybe it's not, and Lamont Roach it was, and that was what we saw last night. But good action fight.
yeah. Well said, Dec.
I would go and put your feet up and watch it if I were
All
you.
right. Why have I got to put
Do you
my
know what
feet
else
up?
I'd watch if I were you?
Go on then.
Right, it's good for anti-inflammation in the ankles. Ryan Garner, the Piranha, is the new European champion as a result of a very good win down on the south coast in Chris Smith territory, actually, at the Bournemouth International Centre, the BIC. He's from Southampton, Garner, but he was over at the BIC, and he beat Salvador Jimenez, one of the great sort of Hispanic names, that one, Salvador Jimenez, who was 14-0 and won, well, one draw, and he absolutely schooled him. He won via shutout on all three cards, 120, 108. He's the new European super featherweight champion. He is now 17-0 with 8 knockouts, Ryan Garner. He's coming, man.
Yeah.
He's coming. So yeah, very good win down there. So it was a night that was full of fights, as is Friday night, Joe. Oh, also on that one, by the way, Lewis Edmondson, he defended his Commonwealth light heavyweight title. There's a few other fights on the undercard. But yeah, it was a busy old night, as is Friday night, George.
Yes.
Because we're in business at the Royal Albert Hall, as we spoke about with Ben. And down on the south coast, along from Bournemouth, but Brighton, my old stomping ground.
What would you stomping in
forward
Brighton?
to it. That's where I went to uni.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was stomping all over my deadlines and like cans of Strongbow and
seagulls
stuff.
and that. Yeah.
Yeah, and sea swimming.
I once on Brighton Pier bought an ice cream and it was off. Dec. Do you know? Yeah, I was fuming.
And the ice creams go off.
Yeah, well, I think when it melts and then
They
gets
should put it in the freezer.
refrozen, like the
it goes
cream can go a
weird.
bit weird. So I tried it for a bit. It didn't really work out. So I stuck it upside down on the railing, and then it just ever so gently started to slide off into the sea, and it didn't feel like littering because it's biodegradable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're giving back as well, really.
Pretty much, yeah. But as it slid off, a seagull flew underneath, and it took it full pelt ice cream to the back of the nut, or maybe right on its back on the wings, right? And then in an instant, it just got swarmed by a bunch of other seagulls. I don't know what they thought it was, but yeah, he got licked to death. Not literally. I think he was alright. He probably felt amazing. Can you imagine, like, just getting licked all over or nipped at or whatever by a bunch of seagulls? But that was.
I'm not sure that would feel amazing.
That's a standout.
That's
That's a
overriding-
standout memory for Brighton for me, to be honest.
Well, George, that's why people listen to this podcast, isn't it? Stories, anecdotes about gone off ice cream. I didn't even know ice cream could go off, but now we know it can.
Does. Yeah, cream. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but do you know what they say about cream?
It's lactose intolerant.
It always rises, and that is what Harlem Eubank is going to hope to prove on Friday night in Brighton, back in his hometown of Brighton. Me and you were both ringside last time he boxed there. Remember that night when he beat Timo Schwarzkopf, which was supposed to be like the big launch pad for him and for Harlem in Brighton, but it hasn't quite worked out like that. That was November
Yeah,
2023.
that feels ages ago, doesn't it, Dec?
It's because it bloody well was. And then he came back in November with a points win in Newcastle against Nurali Erdogan. And then he's waited another, 4 months, and here we are. Tyrone McKenna back at the Brighton Centre. It's good news for everyone. That felt like such a good night, didn't it, in Brighton that time? And it just hasn't.
You just had a right good
taken
time
off.
in Brighton. We all did. It was like this.
It was just such a good event.
Shows down on the South Coast, they work. Yeah, so it's been a while, but we're back. Harlem holding the fort for the Brighton Massive. And there's a lot of good fighters down there, Dec, that sort of part of the world. They all sort of, they have to congregate together, don't they? You know, to bring them all in.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know what I love? Do you know what I love from that little crew? Is Harvey Dykes.
Yep, heavyweight
Remember
Harvey
him?
Dykes, yeah.
The heavyweight. What a dude. He was the one, he won the ABAs, senior ABAs at super heavy ABIs. And then, that night, that was his debut. Eric Nazarian, remember he had loads of fans there, won on points. Since then, he's had 4 more fights, won them all on points. So he's 5-0. He's waiting for his elusive knockout, but he got Stefano Capone. He's got Stefano Capone.
He's in Sopranos, isn't he?
No, he's in Boardwalk Empire. No, Stefano Capone is 5-5. But will he be pony on the night, George? That's what we're waiting to see. And Harvey Dykes is going to look to take him out. And also, one of our all-time favourite guests, ECM legend Mick Conlan, is back. And this is his first fight, amazingly, since that stoppage defeat to Jordan Gill in December 2023. So only a month after that Harlem Eubank one. So it's a night of comebacks. He's off the back of 2 defeats in a row. Is Mick 2 stoppage defeats no less in big fights, and he's boxing Asad Asif Khan over 8 rounds in his first fight on the Wasserman deal, George, which looks like a good deal, doesn't it, to be signing with them boys and having a relaunch.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. I didn't know it. Obviously, the connection there. I think Conlan was in with the boxing booth gym, and Harlem Eubank's attached to them as well.
Yeah, Harlem's
so
his
they
best
all
mate.
used to knock about together. Conlan back-to-back defeats, and they were hard defeats, weren't they? I didn't know whether he'd still want to carry on boxing, but I'm.
He retired. He considered retirement. He said he joined the running club. He did 900 miles of training, run a marathon. And then was like, fuck it, I'm going to box again. Here we are.
And let that be a message to all the runners out there, right? It's shit. Just box. Just box.
Well, he said that. It's exactly, George, what he said. He went, I'm waking up in the fucking dark and cold, running up and down hills, doing this running, and I'm not even getting paid for it. Why don't I do it? Why don't I do this anyway and then go and have a fight at the end and get paid for it?
I mean, also, don't just run for training for boxing. You need to do some boxing training as well.
Top tip there from a coach.
I mean, I learnt that, Dec, before I even started coaching. I knew that from the boxing. But
you learnt that just after you became world champion.
And at that point, I thought, running ain't for me. I'll do it out of necessity, but I wouldn't definitely not do it out of any love or enjoyment. It's not for me. I'm looking forward to paddle. Imagine this, Dec. Imagine you've never seen Shawshank Redemption, right? You have seen Shawshank Redemption, yeah?
Yeah. Sadly, I've seen it because I'd love to be able to have not seen it.
I was overcome with sadness after watching it, so I was like, I'm never going to be able to watch that again for the first time. And the same feeling I'm anticipating with paddle. So I don't want to.
It's like Shawshank. It's like Shawshank Redemption of the
Shawshank sport. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there, but I do want to go there, and I'm really excited to do it one day. Yeah.
Well, it's coming soon. The GGPC is coming soon. Anyway, it's a hard night. I mean, Mick Conlan's boxing coming back, but it's going to be a hard main event for him to watch. Harlem Eubank's one of his best mates in boxing, and Tyrone McKenna, also one of his best mates in boxing. And they're going at it over 12. It looks like a guaranteed action fight, that one, between Harlem and Tyrone. And by which point, when that main event kicks off, George, your work will not be done because you'll be doing commentary on that. But your work within the ring, or certainly around the ring, will be done because Lucas Rowerig. Yeah.
My work is done around the ring.
My work in and around the ring is done. Yeah. I'm now going to commentate. Lucas Rowerig at that point will be 3-0. It will be 3-0 with 2 knockouts, who knows, against, Camilo Castaño, as we said to Ben. The 4-9 Argentinian southpaw. George, third fight up for Lucas. How are you feeling? How's the camp thinking and feeling ahead of this one?
Very, very good.
Is it the best camp ever? Is in the shape of his life?
It's a perfect camp. He's been feeling good, man. Looking good, looking the part. And so we're trying to keep him coming thick and fast. You know, I think that must be at least 5 weeks on since his last outing on the Ben Shalom boxer card. Boxed really well that night, so had a week off.
Third fight, third different promoter as well. Yeah. Third different promotion. That's like what you did.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it is even better, yeah.
Bouncing about.
Better. No, we'll keep him busy, keep him active, and keep him winning. Do you know what I mean? He's got to keep learning. So he's fighting a southpaw this time, something different. You know, he's boxed and beat southpaws as an amateur, but doing it as a pro is a different kettle of fish. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to it's the first one outside of London. So we're down in Brighton, not a million miles away. Got a strong support contingency from Crawley, believe it or not, Dec. That's almost halfway. Oh. Yeah, Lucas. Yeah.
What, Lucas?
So he spent a bit of time in Crawley. His father lives in Crawley, so beating the drum for him. And so every now and again he's on a Crawley run. So he nips down to Crawley. Meets and greets to everyone. Everyone just adores him, buys a ticket to his next fight. And I thought, Brighton, Friday night, where do you want to be situated? Crawley. You're pretty much there. It's about a 15-minute drive.
Well, yeah. You are nearly there. You're nearly in the land of the gone-off ice cream.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, right?
Not milk and honey.
Seagulls, don't fuck with me no more. I'll tell you. And they're big old boys, do you know what I mean? And this one, to be fair, took it.
Seagulls.
I reckon he'd done a frotch because he looked like he was out, right? But then he came back to life before he hit the water. So
they pecked him numb. Anyway, George, right? So, and also means we've got a Saturday night off, kind of. I mean, not exactly. I'm sure something's going on which we've forgotten. But the 2 shows on Friday night. Who would have thought it? And then we can reconvene. And sort of assess the weekend's action.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. Hopefully, there's. You bring any eggs to Brighton?
Mind your own business. Let's just say yes.
Yes.
I will be carrying eggs.
Eggs. All right then.
Yes. But yeah. Okay. Lovely. Well, hope fight week goes well. We'll see you. We'll catch up.
Ciao, Dec. Take care. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.